listen to the seller. So she had multiple people calling her all the time, and she would tell them, hey, give me a call in a week, but they'd call in 3 days. And so I was probably the only guy to just listen to her.
You can lose a lot of money in this business if you just give it like one at bat. If you want a baseball analogy, you send one mailer out or one set of mailers out. But if you stay consistent and you continually to go after it, like you're going to be successful in this business.
I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but like, for example, on some of the platforms, you're kind of like hiding who you are. And I was just trying to think as a business owner, I'm like, in what other business do I not want my customer to know who I am?
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Apke, joined by one of our students, very successful, Cody Harris. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and you haven't been doing this too long. You've been in it about 8 months, and I've said it before on the podcast. I love talking to people after they get past 6 months because then you guys kind of feel the momentum. You've got past some big hurdles so far. But yeah, let's back up to like what got you into this.
Yeah, so most veteran investors kind of cringe when I say this, but I actually bought my first land course 10 years ago.
Wow.
So, people talk about it being a blue ocean and less competition and all of that. I mean, it was, as you can imagine, 10 years ago, sending 100 letters out and getting crazy responses. So that's a longer story, but that's how I initially got into it. And was young and dumb and didn't stick with it.
Yeah.
And then decided to pick it back up 10 years later.
So where were you in your life at that point? That's a long time ago. You're a young guy.
Yep. So 33 now. I was 20s. So before, you'll appreciate this, and you were a coach. But my first job out of college, I was a professional baseball player.
Wow.
So I played for the Marlins, didn't make it to the major leagues, but was in the minor league system for a bit. Was done with that. Always interested in real estate. Got into land, like I said, through a course, and I would have been in young 20s at that point and newly married, and I just didn't have the grit to stick with it at that time, and the long-term vision and creativity to kind of make it work, which was, big regret professionally, but hindsight is 2020.
So how long did you stick with it then? Did you do any deals, any success from that 10 years ago?
So we bought a deal. It was me and a buddy. We bought a deal in Moore County, North Carolina. I think we were all in for about $600. We paid this lady's back taxes, gave her a little bit of cash, and we were going to sell that parcel for $5,000. But Ron, I tell you, like, we didn't know anything. I didn't know about what a perk test was until I tried to sell it. And the guy's like, does it perk? And I'm like, what was that?
That's funny. Yeah, young and just kind of learning, but that's awesome. Like, that's obviously good experience. So what kind of was it that got you back into the game?
Yeah, so I'd kind of dabbled in real estate since that point. I was on the housing side. Before I came to land, like I had actually wholesaled a creative finance deal. So I always was kind of in and out of real estate, but was more kind of on the side. And just through a life change, I was in a sales role and kind of a brutal job, and ended up not working out with that company. And I said, hey, I think this is the time. Back's against the wall, and let's give real estate a full shake. I've kind of always thrown sticks at it from the side, and so we decided to jump in. And I love the land niche. I already had the proof of concept, and I had started watching you guys kind of during my lunch break with this previous sales job. I'm like, you know what, let's just go and give it a full shake.
So you still a full-time salesperson as well?
I was. So I actually dropped everything and went full-time land.
Okay.
And this might be good for listeners. A little bit of a different story is I just gave it I came up with a 6-month plan, which is a little bold. Married with 3 kids, so it's definitely not the faint of heart. Said, hey, I got 6 months to get it off the ground. And in the timing of it, everything started hitting at about 6 months. So I got pipeline stuff going, but I'm actually going back and getting a W-2 job. And hopefully we'll exit it again at some point. But I don't regret it at all. I don't know if I would ever have jumped full in if I hadn't been kind of pressed with my back against the wall. So
yeah, it's cool. I mean, you went into coaching, like you threw a lot of money at this, and I'm sure, I mean, like you said, like you have responsibilities, you have a family, but yeah, definitely respect that in terms of going in that full, and I know you have good momentum. So that was kind of yours, and it's not for everybody, guys. Like not everyone should throw everything out and just like, okay, let's just do this for 6 months. But as far as like the worst case scenario is like, okay, getting another W-2, you're still doing land, you're making money on both places. Like it's the worst case scenario is not a bad one. The best case scenario is, and you'll still get there without a doubt, is financial freedom, is location freedom, and all these other things. In those 6 months, I'm sure like you learned so much. So again, respect to you as far as for doing that. And I think a lot of people could learn from that. When people have $20,000 saved up and you can use $10,000 for expenses and $10,000 for this business. But let's talk about those first few. Were you doing mail from the start? What did that look like? You got into coaching. You were with a coach, and did you go mail to start texting? What did your marketing look like?
Yeah, so initially out the gate, lots of mail. I shouldn't say a lot compared to some people, but I was shooting out anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 a month for probably the first 3 or 4. Which again, you learn, like you said, you learn so much in that first 6 months. I probably would have done things a little bit differently. But I was just so eager to get the money, to get the mail out and just get rolling that I just, kind of full steam ahead. But yeah, it was initially mail. I did texting for a little bit, like follow-up texting. And I backed out of that for some different reasons. Just as I want to operate as a business, some different things. We don't have to get into it if we don't want to, but I like mail better too, because it's, hey, when the person's calling, either they're going to call because it's a hate call, or they're vetted in some way. They're either very curious, or they're motivated, or they're ready to sell. And so it's like I'd rather talk to those people because those are going to be the best clients that I'm going to be able to do business with.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I think there's less people now doing mail than a long time ago. And a lot of times like it's cyclical in terms of like people going to different marketing strategies, and there's opportunity when people start doing cheaper marketing, which I think a lot of people are leaning towards cheaper marketing, which a lot of times is cold calling and texting. And again, nothing against those two. You said you tried texting for a little bit and just wasn't for you in terms of like just the workload? What was it?
Yeah. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on it, and I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but like, for example, on some of the platforms, you're kind of like hiding who you are. And I was just trying to think as a business owner, I'm like, in what other business do I not want my customer to know who I am? And most people don't ever fall into litigation, anything like that. But I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to risk that at this point. I got limited capital, and it was time consuming, and it was just me. But I could do that because I was full time. There's no problem. But more and more I thought about it, I'd say, you know what, I'd rather spend the money and talk to the most motivated people as well. But I know people personally who destroy it on text. So it's like, I don't have anything against it. Just personally, I think this model I prefer too, especially stepping back into a W-2 for a little bit, is like, this is going to be the easiest way to do that.
So if you don't mind, let's get into kind of like, what did you have set aside, like capital for this business? I know you said you had 6 months, which is great. Like putting a time period, putting an amount of money you're willing to invest. If you're okay talking about like the amount of money you had to invest in this business over these 6 months.
Yeah, this might make some Dave Ramsey fans cringe, but so I had a reserve of 20, 30 grand kind of a thing. And what I did actually was, I had great credit, still do, was I opened up a business line of credit card and even personal credit cards. And I just said, I'm going to throw as much as I can for 6 months, like hold on to my capital, worst case scenario. Because I believed in the business that much. Kind of like, Landon from a previous episode of like, I know it works, so I'm just going to throw it. I got 12 months on this card. I got 18 months, 0% interest, 21%, 21 months, no interest. And so I'm just going to go for it with that. In the worst case scenario, I got to pay it off with one reserve. But so I guess you could say a few 20 to 30.
Nice. That's obviously, but the credit card thing's a lot more, people are doing that a lot more, especially people with W-2s where like they're not like over leveraging. Like you didn't over leverage, I don't think. It's probably not in Dave Ramsey's courses or whatever. I definitely don't think. But as far as like you understood what you were getting into, it's not like you had any intention of holding credit card debt for 3 years, which is where you'll get absolutely killed in terms of interest and everything like that. Let's talk about those first couple months. So 2,000 to 4,000 mailers per month. What do those look like in terms of leads? Let's first just talk about kind of your lead volume, everything like that, deals, if you got any deals in the first couple months.
Yeah, so first couple months didn't get any deals. So this will be fun to lead into one of them though. But got a lot of responses. I learned a lot too. I mean, I had a couple leads. Looking back, I would have handled the calls differently. But there were some unique scenarios. Like I had a first conversation, there was agreement, things were looking good. Like I'm sending contracts out. And then in the interim, something happened on two of these deals where I ended up losing them. One was a guy literally said, "Hey, your initial offer was low. Can you come up to this price point?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's do it." And then we had a great 40-minute conversation, sent it to him, and then he ghosted me.
Wow.
Next time, or keep calling him, keep calling him, keep calling him. He finally says, "Hey, I talked to a realtor. He told me not to sell to an investor and all this and that." And then I pitched the double close and just said, "Hey, I can do the best of both worlds." And he was like, "Oh, it's really tempting, but I'm going to use this realtor." And I ended up losing that. That was a tough one. That was probably like a 60 grand spread
Wow.
that he had agreement on. So it was like I didn't have any deals in those first 2, 3 months, but I had multiple stories like that where it was just like this close. So it was just good motivation to keep going. One lady I talked to who, yeah, I initially called her and she said, "Hey, call me after the election." And I mailed her September or something. And so I ended up following up with her for about 6 months. And ended up signing her up after 6 months of follow up.
Wow. So that was a 6-month follow-up. Was that from those mail from the first few
In
months?
the first couple of months, yep.
Wow, that's awesome. And that happens, guys. And I want to back up to a previous story. Yeah, negotiating. I remember those first few calls when we started doing this business, whatever, 7 years ago when we started doing this business. And like, it's so tempting to agree to a number because it sounds good, but like having some kind of negotiation, guys, and not just agreeing to a seller, like makes them more like they kind of won in the deal as well. Like you just like X dollars, they want $50,000. Yep, let's sign it right away. Like it, then they like, all right, why the hell did this Cody guy just agree to this money so fast? He said exactly yes to exactly. Just a few $1,000s of negotiating like can go a long way. But obviously, is that kind of one of the things you realized after that?
I realized it was probably too easy. Like his red flag came up like, wow, he agreed to that really easily.
Yeah. But it happens. I would be surprised if that doesn't happen to most people. Let's talk about that first deal though. So you had that's awesome. 6-month follow up. What did that deal look like?
So yeah, that was actually my third deal, but that was just a cool from those initial couple mailers.
Let's talk about all 3 deals. Let's go to your first deal first.
So first deal was probably 4th or 5th month of mail, and so I kind of shifted my strategy a little bit. Instead of shotgun approach, my marketing budget was slimming at that point, and I said, you know what? I try to think who's my ideal client, who's the most motivated sellers I've talked to at this point. And for me personally was, hey, out of county, and I've owned it for 5+ years. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to test it. So I just sent mail to that. It was like 800 to a county in Alabama. And lady called, sure enough, she was from California, owned this in Alabama, had no intentions. A few phone calls, locked it up. Smaller deal. I think it was a buy for 8, sell for 18. Which honestly, I'll take it. Keep the lights on, pay off the credit card. So that was my first deal, but that essentially took to full cycle it took 7 months.
Wow.
So I essentially didn't get paid for 7 months.
And when did that close?
That closed, what was that? Technically February. I might be getting that off, but
I like how you I like how you kind of targeted your list more. Like, guys, as you guys are getting closer, a little tighter with marketing spend, that's a really good lesson to learn from. Like, okay, and I'm not saying to do this for everyone. If you have unlimited marketing capital, like you'll get more deals, a volume of deals if you're sending to more people. But that being said, like Cody kind of reverse engineer, like who are my ideal sellers? People who don't live in the county, people, you said out of county and what?
And people who have owned it for 5+ years.
5 years. So they haven't bought the property in the last 5 years. Yep. So yeah, very simple filter, but it probably took it down from, I mean, I would guess probably upper twos, at least 3,000 records or so, at least down to
Yep.
800
Yep.
in
You're spot on.
Alabama, based on those counties, how that's like. Yeah, that's awesome. So first deal, 8 for 18. I know you said the second deal you bought. What did you buy this second deal first? Any story behind the second deal?
Yeah. So second deal, same thing. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sniper approach. I sent mail in January, 670 pieces to Pulaski County, Kentucky, and sure enough, older lady lived out of the county, called me, said, hey, I don't want to hold on to this thing, and locked it up for 16, and we're closing tomorrow at 37.5.
Wow. And you funded
So,
this yourself?
so this was cool. I on all of my deals, I've actually brought in friends and family.
Mm,
So on that first deal, even though it was small, my partner made 30% on their money in about a month.
yeah.
And on the second deal, my partner is going to make 49%. And so, especially with what's going on, it's a banner for land investing. Like,
For everyone listening and people like looking to get in this business, like we're obviously there's mistakes that happen in the first 6 months, but I mean, you add that $60,000 deal, like you're probably not going back to a W-2. You're like it's just, but which is fine. Like all that, it's fine, all that. But like this is awesome. Like buy for 8, sell for 18, 16, 37.5. Let's talk about this third deal, and this is the one that you worked this lady for 6 months. And just a simple follow up. She told you something, and you said I'll do it, and you're in sales. It sounds crazy, but 90% of people, 90% of land investors would not have called her after election. Would have lost the number. Wouldn't have kept it organized. Like having those follow ups are so valuable.
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
So was it like, because you didn't send mail, it wasn't 6 months till the election from when you sent the mail. So what kind of was the holdup from? Were you 3 months after the mail when the election, and then what was the next 3 months like?
yeah. And even just to back up there, just to highlight what you said, is to listen to the seller. So she had multiple people calling her all the time, and she would tell them, hey, give me a call in a week. But they'd call in 3 days, call in 4 days. And so I was probably the only guy that just listened to her. Hey, can I give you a call in 2 months? Great. And I just did that constantly. So election, the parcel is here in Florida, and she was waiting for a potential legislation to pass regarding marijuana. If that was going to pass, she was probably going to get a huge, substantial offer. So she wanted to wait till after the election. That legislation didn't pass. And so now that buyer dipped out. And so we just kept chatting and chatting. And my initial offer was lower than a lot of people. And so I just tried to make it make sense for me, whether it was double close, cash, or whatever. And I kind of pitched both options. And it was just she needed a lot of care. She just didn't want to make a decision. And you kind of run the back and forth of like, do I need to push more? Or do I come back? And I kind of just took the laid back approach of like, hey, her name is Sharon. I said, hey, Sharon, you just let me know when you're ready. I'll keep following up. And this is where I'm at. This is what I can do. And then ultimately, taking a playbook from some of the guys in Discord, I said, hey, what are your favorite restaurants? And I bought 2 gift cards and I said, hey, we'll close this. You take your husband out. We'll sign it. Let's do it. And that, I think, ended up pushing her over the edge.
It's so simple. Like it's like simple. Like yeah, you'll lose money at some point
Sure.
on the. I mean, not overall. Like overall, you're gonna make so much money. Just like gestures like that. Like she just needed a little bit of push. Talk to me from a sales perspective on this deal, because she's getting other offers. She's maybe talking to other people. Like from a sales perspective, you just said you kept your word, everything like that. But how do you stay top of mind in her head?
Yeah, so I just tried to optimize for a relationship. She's talking to all these people, they're very aggressive, which again could be, you got to read your seller. Like that could get it done in certain situations and in a lot of situations. But I knew for her, she was turned off by that. And so it was literally just having a conversation, being interested in what's going on in her life, and I mean, she just called me and kind of talked to me for 10 minutes about what was going on in her life and telling me the history of the land. So just optimizing for that connection, I think, pushed it over the edge. Because even towards the end, I was getting a little nervous because she said she started getting people offers, and she said, "Well, I found someone, I really like this guy, and so I think I'm going to go with him."
Wow, that's
So
crazy.
just optimize for connection.
Yeah, those relations, especially the longer term ones, like them being able to remind, like if you talk to her once a month or whatever it is, and she remembered Cody, because that means a lot. And like she probably talked to other people. I know she talked to other people, but she probably was still getting more interest from it as well. So that deal was in Florida, and you already purchased that, correct?
Yep, purchased it. It's been listed for less than a month.
What'd you purchase for?
So we were all in for about 93,
Oh
and
my,
we're hoping for 140.
nice.
So a solid, after closing commissions, that's a 40 grand probably.
Awesome. Wow. I didn't, that's a big one. Awesome. That's huge.
Yep,
Is that friends and family as well?
correct. Yep.
Nice. So talk to me about like what's next in 2025 as you kind of transition into a role, another sales role. What's kind of next for you in 2025? Like, what are your thoughts balancing this? Because you've done this. I guess you haven't done this business with the W-2 as well. But talk about transitioning there and what kind of your plan is for 2025.
Sure. Yeah, I think the 6 months, like you said, learned so much. And what's great about this business and what you guys hammer a lot is like once you get things set up and the system's there, it does not take a ton of time. So my plan right now is to get a little steady with this current job and then still stick with it to where, maybe I'm putting in an hour or two each day to just keep it going. And once I get settled, once some of these things closes, going to revamp my marketing, send mail, probably take that sniper approach, probably might do some home mail and stuff. Um, and the idea, I just kind of keep going with what I'm going. I mean, I'm thrilled with what's happened already, and it's all the motivation to keep pushing on. But just hoping to be consistent with marketing because I'm like, it's killing me that I've like had to pause marketing because I've kind of run out of my runway. So I'm waiting for this to close. So plan is to just keep marketing and hopefully get it to a point. I don't know if this year, it'd be going back full time, but at this point, I would probably do, hey, 1 to 2 years where I'm making more than what I'm making at the sales job, and then we're going to go back in.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, you have $78,000 of like net profit in these deals. So I mean, for again, like when was your first mailer sent? Do you know? You started in our program August 12th. You said when was your first
Yeah,
mailer sent?
that would have been here. I'll probably, let's see, I think it was 2 weeks, two
Okay,
weeks
so
after.
late August.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
late
it's
August.
legitimately, guys, like 7 months, 8 months, and like this is awesome. Like this is what I want to see in terms of this and like the momentum you have going forward. What is current kind of lead volume? Do you have leads coming in? Like, are you have any other deals you're working, potential deals you're working? Because you're obviously a salesperson, so like when you work leads for 6 8 months, like a lot of people work leads for 6 8 days, and
Yeah.
then they just like forget about them or whatever. What does your current kind of pipeline look like on the buy side?
Yeah. So I don't have anything in the pipeline. Obviously, I got leads in the CRM that I'm periodically following up with people who've essentially expressed interest in selling, but haven't said no yet, but haven't agreed. So I'm following with them, and I'm taking a little bit of different route too of with the connections I have to capital is just bringing family and friends to fund other people's deals. So I have other leads there. So that's even another revenue source that may come in where I'm funding other people's deals, but using other people's capital with it, and everyone's winning. But I'm just going to follow up with the leads in my CRM, and then I just really got to get the marketing going again because I haven't sent mail since January. But you get the calls here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I don't expect a whole lot because I'm not doing a ton of marketing.
As you transition into W-2, like what is your marketing? What do you think you're going to do as far as markets? Obviously, you'd have some more steady income coming in
Yep.
because deal volume, especially when you're first starting your first year, like income is sporadic in this business. You might make $100,000 all of a sudden, and then you might not make a dime for the next 6 months, and money's just going out towards marketing. It's just very sporadic until you get consistent marketing, deal volume, everything like that. But what are your marketing plans once you start ramping up in terms of
Yeah.
volume?
Yeah, I'm probably going to experiment again with that sniper approach. So my thought is anywhere from maybe 800 to 2,000 mailers, but very narrow, and see where that kind of leads. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that can do a lot for sure. And it's gonna, like you said before, it's not gonna be a lot of time. You're not gonna have to put any time into this business. Like, you have funding lined up. You don't have to search for funding all the time. Like, your time in this business is gonna be follow up. So I mean, I think that's gonna work out really well. So you said 1-2 years, like potentially transitioning back out. It doesn't seem like you're like someone who hates like having a sales W-2 or anything like that, where it's like a needed thing. But like, once you do eventually transition out, and I think you'll have no problem doing that eventually. Like, what's kind of your plans, family plans? Like, what is this business going to be able to provide for you and your family?
yeah. I mean, ultimately, what everyone talks about is just the freedom. And I would probably even, I'm not as ambitious as most of like, hey, I'm going to build a 7-figure business. Like, I would rather, do half of that and have more freedom, or maybe time. But freedom is the biggest thing. And just, I got 3 kids. I know you have kids. And so time is precious. It's the most valuable resource. So if something can provide for our needs and then just expand that time I have with my kids, especially early, then I'm all about that. And I have more of the entrepreneurial bent, but we'll see.
Have you, because you got into land, and we're going to back up a little bit here. You got into land, I mean, when you were 23 years old. So, I mean, that's your first like entrepreneur, or I don't know if it's your first entrepreneur thing. Have you always kind of been like an entrepreneur? Have there been other businesses you've tried to start or started? You said you've done some real estate in the past.
Yeah, I haven't started any other businesses, but I always knew that I wanted to own my own business and work for myself. And then, even being a professional athlete, it's just not a typical job. So very early on, it was like, if I had a choice, I wouldn't prefer the 9 to 5 cubicle, and want to do something fun and exciting. And I didn't know exactly what vehicle, but loved real estate and was doing stuff on the side, like I said, where, yeah, I actually wholesaled a creative finance deal, which was kind of like wading into the deep end and for a first deal. But it actually worked out well, and I just knew from early on that real estate was a vehicle, and kind of fell in love with the land niche because it's just not sexy, it's not flashy, sometimes it's not the most Instagrammable thing, but that's where you can really do some damage in the niches.
For sure. No, 100%. And then you get in the niches within land, and then it's even more. There's so much opportunity. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think we did kind of skip over like your sports and your professional sports background. What did that, like, being a professional athlete, obviously a ton of discipline coming from, I mean, obviously you're a college athlete as well. But talk about like the discipline, what kind of traits that helped you with, if any.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is probably grit and just getting punched in the face and keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really look at it, I didn't get paid for 7 months. And so you kind of just have to level up discipline and grit and confidence of, I'm not seeing the results immediately. And so I got to push through that. And so discipline, grit, those are just things that you learn so easily in sports and then at the professional level. But yeah, I mean, even time management, different things like that. And then just wanting to do things at a high level. As an athlete, you're always thinking, how can I improve? How can I get better today? Trying to not just stay at the status quo. And so all those things kind of push and I think translate well into business.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, like this is minor league baseball isn't like all the bells and whistles of what you see at like the NBA or the MLB.
That's
Like I
true.
was a Division II college basketball coach. Like that's not what you see on TV in terms of like you're driving the bus or like you're doing
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of things. Like you're not staying in the nicest places. Food is like it's not the money behind all that. So like you have to like there's so much discipline beyond like obviously there's a lot of discipline in being a professional like at the highest level in terms of an athlete, but as far as like you are responsible for yourself, like you don't have people who are babysitting you and everything like some of these professional athletes get babysat. Going back to land though, what do you think kind of the future of this business is, or what advice would you have for someone looking to get into it?
Yeah, the future, I don't know. No one has a crystal ball, but and I've only been in it for 7, 8 months, right? So take that with a grain of salt. But it seems like even in that 7, 8 months, if you can just push through and maybe not have the, mentality that you're going to make all this money in a month or two, sometimes that happens. I mean, you see people, their first mailer, their first deal, they make a ton of money or whatever it may be. But if you just have the discipline to essentially think in decades, not days,
Yeah.
and I think it's Hormozy says that. I think if you can do that, I think it's a phenomenal business that'll change your life if you can just stick with it long enough for it to work because it's proven over and over. It's a simple business but not easy.
Hmm.
So I'd say to new people, hey, as long as you can plan to stick with it, like go all in.
Yeah. You can lose a lot of money in this business if you
You
just
can.
give it like one at bat. If you want a baseball
Yeah.
analogy, you give it
Yeah,
one
there
at
you
bat,
go.
like you're going to probably lose money. You send one mailer out or one set of mailers out. Like there's a good chance you
That's it.
might lose some money, but if you stay consistent and you continually to go after it, like you're going to be successful in this business. Like it would have been easy for Cody to quit 5 months ago when his first couple mailers weren't overly successful and he was working leads for 6 months, everything like that. But Cody, I think you have a great future in this business. I'm excited to watch it and kind of hear about it, everything like that. And yeah, I mean, you have a deal closing tomorrow. That's huge. Have another big one in the pipeline that you're closing or that you're trying to sell. But and any other things that you wanted to mention on here? Any other pieces of advice?
No, I mean, I think, like I said, just stick with it, listen to people.
Yeah.
Um,
What
and if
what about the
you're,
networking? Like, have you been? You think you've taken advantage of like the networking aspect of the community, everything like that, or the value in that?
oh, it's huge. The community is huge. I mean, you think about, you can learn so much from a course, but there is just something about having somebody else in your ear who's been there that you could say, hey, what's going on with this deal? What should I do? And so that's been invaluable to ask questions. I had the coaching obviously, so even more intimate, but even just having people and everyone in there is awesome,
That's
which I
huge.
appreciate.
Yeah, the community and like I think it's been growing. I'm not even I'm not huge on like I don't care if the community grows in terms of people. Like I love it to grow within people, but I love it growing even more with like the engagement and like real engagement, real people trying to help other people, not people trying to like snake in and like get in. Like
Yeah.
just everyone is willing to give, which is really cool. But Cody, I appreciate you coming on here today, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. Listen on Spotify or Apple. Share this with a friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.